About the silver economy. Now, what exactly is silver economy? Research indicates that 12% of India's population will be over the age of 60 by 2030, and according to a UN Population Fund, this is expected to increase to 19.4% by 2050. Now, these projections clearly indicate that a lot more needs to be done as far as making the living affordable, safe for senior citizens. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, because there is an expert group which has given its report to the Ministry of Social Justice and Welfare, suggesting several ways as to how this can be done. We're going to discuss all those and look at what exactly are the ways forward. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Virendra Mishra, who is joining us from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. He is the Director of National Institute of Social Defence under the Ministry. We also have with us Ms. Anupama Datta. She is Head of the Advocacy at HelpAge India. And we also have with us Urmi Goswami, Assistant Editor with Economic Times, who keeps a tab on developments like these. Welcome all of you to Rajya Sabha Television. Let me begin with you, Dr. Mishra, and let's first try and understand where do we stand in terms of caring for our senior citizens.
Thank you so much for having me here. To start with, I mean, India right now is being talked about like, having a demographic dividend. So when we say demographic dividend, it is just because it is expected that the average age of this country, the population, is going to be 29 in 2021 or 22. So just imagine we are basking like, in the glory of being the, one of the youngest country, not in the sense of like, it has got independence. I mean, we have independence in 70 years, but actually that most of the population is going to be young. I mean, the average age 29. Mm-hmm. But what we need to foresee is that this population is soon going to be senior citizens. So, as you already mentioned, that soon the percentage of the population that is like, by 2020, it's going to be 12% by 2030, in fact, and it's going to be 19.5%, 19.4%, in fact, by 2050. So just imagine, and when we talk about this percentage of population, we are not talking about Nepal, Burma, or any other country which is a small country. We are talking about India. And when we talk about India, certainly that that percentage, the number, when we just convert into numbers, it becomes a huge population. So that is why we need to be prepared, and we need to start our preparation right now. So that we are well prepared to take care of the senior citizens when they grow old. Mm-hmm. Even now, we need to start our work. I mean, we are supposed to, but the challenges that we are going to face in coming years is really going to be huge. Looking at the percentage, I mean, so we're close to 20% of the Indian population, which is going to be like how many? I mean, just imagine like how many crores it's going to be. So and if 20% of that population is senior citizens, we need to start our preparation right now. And the government, the Ministry of Social Justice is quite serious about it. And very recently, on 1st of April, in fact, they have come up with a National Action Plan on senior citizens. A new senior citizen policy is being framed, and some amendments even, in fact, to the Act for the Welfare of the Senior Citizens is in anvil. So there are so many things which are happening in this front. So, and in the scheme, this is a very important scheme. And in that scheme, there are majorly 4 components. One is the integrated program for the senior citizens, where to take care of them, there are provisions of setting up old age homes, dementia care homes, and even daycare centers and other things. Similarly, there have been the government of India has asked the states to constitute they frame their own action plans, and which is going to include the formation of physiotherapy clinics, mobile medical units, daycare centers, SHGs for senior citizens, training for geriatric caregivers, where the NISD, National Institute of Social Defence, has a very important role to play. Besides, a lot of ministries, despite that the Ministry of Social Justice is the nodal ministry on subject of senior citizens, but there are many other policies of different ministries which are dealing with the issues of senior citizens. So this National Action Plan, in fact, talks about the interministerial convergence as well. And besides that, NISD has been interested in an important role in training, capacity building, awareness, advocacy, etc. So, to put it succinctly, the government of India is quite serious about it and already has started planning to take care of the senior citizens, current as well as it's a futuristic plan as well.
Okay. Indeed, there are several aspects to it, and there is a convergence required from, of various ministries, because there will be plans across several departments which will have to be done and dealt with in the near future. Let me now bring in Ms. Anupama here. Ms. Anupama, from your point of view, as Dr. Mishra was pointing out, the scope of the issue here, that's one. And the kind of work which we have done so far, or which is being done, and the National Action Plan also, which Dr. Mishra referred to, for the to handle the future challenges, because the number, as the research says, is going to be huge by 2050.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Mishra that government has taken steps, and we have come a long way after we adopted the national policy for older persons in the year 2000. I can see central level, but the challenge, because I've been working in this field for a long time, the challenge really is in implementation of any such policy or plan or scheme, whatever you have. And the challenge is that that has to be done at the level of the state government. Central government normally passes, overarching policy or overarching guidance. And if you ask Mr. Mishra what is the allocation, then you will come to know what is actually getting implemented on the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's where the challenge lies. But I would like to say in scope that, when you're looking at the elderly, especially in the COVID-19, post-COVID-19 reality, you will have to see that, how many of them got impacted by the indirectly by this. How many have lost their livelihoods, how many have lost their rent income, how many have lost their, maybe other income that they had, how many have lost children's opportunities are lost. So if they were dependent on children, how many of them will become dependent on, I don't know who. So there are those very, very serious challenges, and policies are good, but only up to a point. Beyond that, it's allocation, and it's also the speed with which you implement it. And the real challenges, the number that you're giving me, 20%, doesn't mean anything to anyone here, 20% of a 1 billion population. So what? But when you just break it down and you dissect it and you actually slice and dice it, then you will actually know the women, the dependent women. What is the plan the government has for the widows, for example? Mm-hmm. Women in any household are vulnerable. Even if they're living in well-to-do families, they're quite vulnerable. So those are the issues. And with incomes going down, mm-hmm. families are likely to put the needs of the elderly on the back burner. Children become important, younger people become important, elderly actually, and this whole cultural nuance of self-effacing elderly just adds to the problem. So challenges are going to be, numerous. So the task ahead is, I think, humongous, if I look at it.
Okay. Indeed, challenges are many, and the task ahead is also humongous. Would you agree with what Anupama is saying here? Two aspects. One, obviously, in terms of the sheer numbers, but in very interesting, aspect which she also referred to. That is the COVID-19 pandemic, because that seems to have had a cascading effect, and that becomes a really, really important, aspect in deciding the policy as well as the road ahead.
Well, I kind of agree with Anupama ji and with Mr. Mishra, but I also disagree with them. Now, I'll tell you why. First of all, on the issue of numbers, if you look at the numbers today, we are talking about a population of 120 million of elderly when we're talking about senior citizens, 60 plus. And that's out of a population of 1.37 billion. In 2050, that number is going to be 300 million out of 1.64 billion. So, yes, it's going to be a larger number. But if you